I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to the work session of Eufaula City Council. This is not a public hearing, and I greatly appreciate everyone turning out. You're definitely not fair weather citizens. We appreciate you coming in this weather. So we're addressing tonight, the primary item on the agenda is the noise ordinance. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order and take roll call.
Mr. Powers?
Present.
Mr. Knight?
Present.
Mr.
Present.
Mr. Collins?
Present.
Mr. Willard?
Present.
First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the work session held on March 16th. What are the wishes of the council regarding those minutes? Move approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. We don't have any old business on the agenda at this time. I'd like to move right into the discussion of Eufaula's noise ordinance and Eufaula Code, which is Division 8, Section 66-446. And I'll ask our city attorney who's done some research on this to start us off, please.
Okay, all right, what I did was I looked at the noise ordinance that we've got. So just to hit the highlights of what it is basically what we define is that there's a general prohibition against a violation and makes it a violation to make calls continue to be made, any loud or excessive noise which unreasonably interferes with the comfort, health, or safety of others within the jurisdiction of the city. Then it goes on to have specific prohibitions. And so, and that's where, like radio, you know, because back in the day when we used to have boom boxes, they say separate between pedestrians and motor vehicles. And so for a motor vehicle, it can't be in such a manner as to be plainly audible is the term of art. For any person other than the player or operator to hear it within 5 feet of a vehicle or 10 feet in the case of a pedestrian. And so from a business or a residence, so like, if, like for instance, if River City Grill had somebody play in there, then from the business or residence, it can't be in such a manner to be plainly audible, a distance of 50 feet to any person in a commercial residential. What happens in the case, you know, what's been brought up about Shorter Mansion, in that instance, they get a permit. And if there is a permit, then nothing in this section shall be construed to prohibit special performances by a band or orchestra in a hall, building, or in an open air after the proper permit has been issued. We don't have what is called a noise permit. Some cities have a noise permit. What we do have is a special event permit, and that is the same that is used for this purpose. And so the Shorter Mansion has applied for these special event permits routinely for, you know, big events that they have there. And so anyway, and what I did was I looked to see if our ordinance is any different than some of the surrounding municipalities. And what I found, now of course I didn't do an extensive list because I do believe that more research needs to be done on this. But what I did is I looked like in North Alabama, I looked also in Troy, Phoenix City, and those ordinances that I've made copies of it for y'all here. I've got Florence, Alabama, Troy, and Phoenix City, you know, for y'all to look at. And all of them have the identical language about special performances in an open air with permitting processes in there. Also, they have a very similar language about the distances and use the same type instance where, you know, a fine. Madison, Alabama, in 2012 just went through basically revamping their ordinance, just because I found a lot of commentary online about it. So that's what drove me to look at what they did in Madison, Alabama. And so a copy of that is in there for y'all as well to look at. And what the main thing that they did in Madison was they defined some of the terms a little bit more specifically. They also put in there, complete process for applying for a noise permit and have an outline procedure about applying for those. But it also, they talk about construction-related noises, they give times in there, some of those type things as well. Now, I also looked at Tuscaloosa. And what Tuscaloosa does is Tuscaloosa has a decibel limit. And so what they do is during a certain hours of the day, it can't reach a certain decibel level. And theirs is, it can't exceed 80 decibels at the property line in a residential, this is residential districts, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And this is measured at the property line, not the source of, whatever sound. This is, measured at the property line. And then 75 from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. at the property line is what they did there. And so, mainly what I believe is that this is, an issue that needs to be examined in conjunction with, I know we've got a new, hopefully we'll have a new city planner in place. Some other people that may want to look at what other communities have done and do, and to do a chart, kind of outlining all of this for y'all. I mean, I'd be happy to do one as well, but I think that this was just to kind of get started. This is just to sort of give y'all an idea of what's out there, but the ordinance that we have in Eufaula is by no means unusual. I found not just the ones here, but several examples of this being exactly the same as what we have here.
Any questions? John?
No, I want to wait to hear from the police department first.
And we can have follow-up questions for there anytime. We're also going to have a feedback and input here from, I believe, is it Captain Watkins who's going to speak to us?
Yeah, Captain Watkins.
Captain Watkins. Going to come up here, and we had some questions regarding our current ordinance, its implementation. We have the chief here too to help respond. But, you had some specific questions, so I'll go ahead and let you start with those.
Captain, I'd just like to know how are noise complaints handled by the Eufaula Police Department?
If the person that complains leaves their name and address, which 80% of the time they do not, we make contact with them first, okay? To see what their complaint is, how long it's been going on, how it's affecting them, so on. Then we usually make contact with the source of the music, tell them there has been a complaint, ask them to turn it down. That's usually our first response to any noise complaint. Should we get called back, we do have a notice of violation, which is a written warning for a city ordinance. So we can go to the source of the music again, write out this written warning, tell them what ordinance they're violating, what they have to do to come into compliance, turn the music down. Issue them that. Should we go back a third time? Of course, it's officer discretion again, but should we go back a third time, we can issue a non-traffic citation, which is a summons to appear in court.
How is it handled different if the police have a event permit?
We still, on the event permit, I don't know if you have a sample copy of it. In the block, right before the signature lines, it says that they have to comply with the noise ordinance.
Bob. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
No, let him know.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
that's-
I'll have to get my.
Oh, no.
There's a box on here above the signature line that says, must comply with the city ordinance, noise, copy of noise ordinance is attached. Okay, so whenever someone, applies for an event permit, they not only get the approved event permit, but they also get a copy of the noise ordinance, so they know exactly what the limits are and all that. So they're aware of it. They're still subject to You know, just because they had, the event permit allows them to have the music, not to exceed the noise ordinance.
Ladies, unlock the cash value in your jewelry box. Sell your gold on Dale Road. We buy gold jewelry, bent or broken, at Eufaula Flea Market, 354 Dale Road.
Sell your gold on Dale Road. Sell your gold on Dale Road. Mr. Pond buys gold on Dale Road. Mr. Pond buys gold on Dale Road. Sell your gold on Dale Road. Sell your gold on Dale Road.
Now, what would happen if they are called the first time and the caller asks for a written report? Can you get that?
Yes, sir. That's
And,
always the citizens.
And if that
It's up
happens,
to them if they want to do a report. Then they can come see the magistrate, and the magistrate can issue. It's always the citizens' right to have the report taken.
and one more question here right quick. Does the police department measure the decibel level and so?
No, sir, we do not, because it's not specified in the ordinance.
So how do you really measure it?
We don't.
You can't.
I mean, it says 50 feet. If I can hear it 50 feet, it would be in violation of the ordinance. But there again, it's officer discretion. It's kind of like speeding. You may give someone a speeding ticket for doing 5 miles over the speed limit. I might not give them one until they're doing 10 over the speed limit. It's kind of officer discretion. It's kind of, how severe it is for the complainant. There's a lot of factors, but we try to work with both sides, and usually our first course of action is just to go to them, explain there's been a complaint, could you please just turn it down? In the majority of the cases, that seems to take care of it.
Well, now personally, I don't know about anybody else in here. I'm just talking about for myself. My biggest complaints come from automobiles and trucks. With these loud muffles, and I get plenty of those. And
Right.
how do you handle that? If I call you and said over in Forest Hill, this Mustang got this loud music and this loud muffle that's waking everybody up at 2 o'clock in the morning, what you do? Just send a
We'll
patrol car?
send a police car through. If we can get a description, that would be great. But we will send a patrol car through, see if he can make contact with it. A lot of the cases, when you see a marked patrol car and you got your music blaring, you're gonna turn it down.
That's right.
And we can't really follow them around to see if they turn it back up. So, the majority of the music cases are when we're passing them on the 4-lane or meeting them somewhere or running radar and hear them drive by or something like that. Now, the mufflers, there's actually a state law, a Title 32 law that covers excessive noise from mufflers. So we can cite them under that, or actually they would violate the noise ordinance also.
That's good for me right now, Captain.
You give the council a monthly report on police incidents, traffic and so on, and I have to admit, I do look at it, but I don't memorize it. Mr. Knight knows it better than I do, but anyway, my question off of that, when you look at all the different incidents that are reported, how do we stack up in terms of the nuisance, the noise nuisance?
Well, I actually looked into that this morning. For the last 18 months, we've had 225 complaints of, we call them signal 25 noise. The number of citations, I would have to look that up, and I'd be glad to get that for you.
Okay.
But those are actually the number of complaints that were called into the police department.
And that's an 18-month time frame?
From January 1st of 2014 until the end of May
Almost.
this year. Yes, sir.
And you've already made it clear that in terms of trying to enforce any part of this ordinance, it's left to a good part of discretion, subjectivity of the officer. Is that correct? Because of lack of definition in the
Yes,
in
sir.
the ordinance?
Yes, sir. And There have been times that we've made the muffler cases where, you know, we really had to explain to the judge what we felt was excessive. Because all the state law, the Title 32 law says is excessive noise. I can't hear very well, years of tractors and gunshots. I can't hear as good as you can, so what's excessive to you may not be to me. So it's kind of a subjective law.
Whenever let me follow up on the question on complaints, when you've addressed it and you've gotten to situations where it's a vehicle or a permit event, what is typically, if you had to issue any of the, what'd you call them, warrants?
The notice of violations.
Notice of violations.
Warnings, yes, sir.
Do you have an idea how often you've had, out of that 200, do you have an idea how many you've had to issue?
Not off the top of my head. I'll be glad to see if I can find that. The majority, I do know the majority of our non-traffic citations, actual citations with noise ordinance, are from vehicles, usually from vehicles. Off the top of my head, I can't remember in the recent past of a citation that we've issued to a business or a residence or anything like that.
Chief, do you or Catwan have any, have y'all done any review of this noise ordinance and looking at the 200 or so odd complaints? If y'all have any specific recommendations related to the interpretation or the enforcement of this, we'd like y'all to get us that information. Could y'all do that? Just look at best that out. Just listen to what I heard here, looking at some of these ordinances and so on. I think subjectivity is good in determining if people respond. You don't have to waste your time or court time, and people respond to the correction, then that's what we want. However, it's also valuable to say, you know, here's a speed limit sign, you're going more than the speed limit.
The intent primarily with the officers when they run into someone is hopefully to correct the situation, not to write a violation or find violations to bring to court. Most of the noise complaints will resolve after the first time. It's not typical that we have to go back. There are times that we do go back. I think on the monthly reports, it generally will indicate maybe an average of 1 or 2 a week of actual violations written, but like the captain said, those are generally vehicle violations, not from.
Kind of give us a summary. It doesn't have to be any great detail, but if you would do those 2 things for us, and so we get it to the council for their consideration. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Did anyone have any other questions for the?
Do you have any problem with open tank with alcohol with them noise problems?
I'm not aware of any correlation.
Some of the functions have alcohol, some don't. There's not a pattern that we've been able to discern.
I mean, generally, the events that would have a ban or something are contained to a private property, so there wouldn't be a violation if they are drinking out in their backyard or something like that.
Captain, I'm still a little confused,
Okay.
and I might not be straightened out until December. But I want to ask you this one more time. If we got a party going on, Dutton Quarters, I know they have them out there all the time, and you get a call, you get a complaint, you go there, you make them quieten it down. Do you patrol, and what's the time limit on that? I mean, not one with no
There's
no permit.
I have not been able to find any time limit in the ordinance. There's a time, I don't know where the permit went, there's a place at the top of the permit that has times on it. We usually put 11
We just had a
p.m.
noise violation here. And I believe that penalty is $200 to the favorite charity of the mayor and then to the president of the council, and then on down the line. So I'll just put that warning out. We've got plenty of people in here to enforce that. So as a reminder, if you haven't done so, turn off your cell phones and put them on mute, please. Thank you.
At the top of the permit, when the individual fills out the permit that wants the event, it'll have the times that they want it on there. We usually put 11 o'clock PM on there as the cutoff time. There's nothing that I've seen in any of the ordinances that says 11 o'clock. That just seems a reasonable time. So we you know, even if they put 2 o'clock, 2 AM, we change it to 11 o'clock.
Ladies, unlock the cash value in your jewelry box. Sell your gold on Dale Road. We buy gold jewelry, bent or broken, at Eufaula Flea Market, 354 Dale Road.
Sell your gold on Dale Road. Sell your gold on Dale Road. Mr. Pond buys gold on Dale Road. Mr. Pond buys gold on Dale Road. Sell your gold on Dale Road. Sell your gold on Dale Road.
But you know, we would patrol it as normal, but do we go back and see if they turned it back up? Usually not. I mean, that's just,
But those are not the, those are not the, parties I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about the ones that do not have permits, that have gatherings going on in the fields, and, you get complaints saying that, they're just too loud. You send a car out there. What you do then? Do you make them disperse?
well, we will ask them to cut it down, but there
Okay.
again, we don't really have the authority to go on your property and tell you to shut a party down. We can tell you to turn the music down if you're, you know, having
This would
people.
relate to issues not only on individual private, but where we've had private business at certain establishments,
Right.
you know. And people, we've had that where they've been called and had to interject and follow off of that. You're limited in what action you can take in terms of whether they comply with the law then or not. So-
Now, if it was something at the chamber or maybe something the city controlled, we would have a little more flexibility, but
So now if a party is going on at,
My house.
Your house.
at your house. I can't party at my house. My pastor won't allow it. If a party is going on and the music's real loud, can you send a police over there and tell them to cut it off?
we can ask him to turn it down and comply with the noise ordinance, yes, sir.
Okay. Now the reason I'm asking you
And
is,
in compliance with the noise ordinance would be where it's not audible more than 50 feet.
I guess I can understand that, but the guy told me that the police officer came over there and told him off.
Well, it's the same as a
Unless-
vehicle. If a vehicle goes down the road and it's on the opposite side of the 4-lane, obviously that's more than 5 feet. So we can turn around and stop that vehicle. If I drive by Winn-Dixie and they have a stereo system and they're blaring their music and I know it's more than 50 feet, according to the ordinance, I can make contact with them without a complaint and ask them to comply with the ordinance.
All right.
Mr.
I've
Nutter,
had-
I think what you're alluding to also, can the officer come up and tell you to turn it off? So there has been some, I'm gonna say some miscommunication with the officers that we're trying to make sure they're aware of the ordinance. We can tell someone to comply with the ordinance by turning it down to a reasonable level. As far as turning it off, that's probably not something that we would normally do, but officers have done it, and we're working with them. I think the Reverend had talked about someone at Thelma's Kitchen, and I actually went by Thelma's Kitchen the day that they're closed. I was gonna ask them if that happened, because they shouldn't have been told to turn it off, but maybe down if it was too loud, but not necessarily off.
Barbara, you?
I've had several constituents mention to me, and I've encountered it myself, at the gas station pumping gas, and these cars with the vulgar, loud, extremely loud and vulgar music. What can we do about that?
But same
Same
thing,
thing.
violation 5. The ordinance does not specify whether the vehicle has to be moving or not. So even if it's on the public road, well, if it's in violation of the ordinance, period, but if your car is sitting in front of your house and you've got your music blaring, we can stop you and issue you a citation. So it doesn't have to be a moving violation.
My only thing is that, I think I heard you say it, Bob, and if I didn't, you tell me right now to my face. I think you said up here somewhere they was having a party, and you could hear it at your house.
I know, what I think I told you, it was my daughter's wedding that we're having
I
at
think
the
that
hall.
was it. I
I
didn't
think they
wanna
could hear it in
In
Georgetown.
Georgetown, they were
Yeah,
both
so
in.
that was one, and that was one where, and the police did come,
Okay.
and, It was turned down for about 5 or 10 minutes and went back up. And the only way we finally got compliance was when I told them I was the one that was gonna pay them. If they didn't turn it on, they weren't gonna get paid. So we finally got some compliance off of that.
He
That's
wasn't gonna
part of the
sign
problem.
that check if they didn't cut it
Yeah,
down.
but part of this issue, I think, comes in, we wanna have our officers be able to enforce the law
That's right.
effectively. And quite often, when the officers approach somebody and they tell them, need to turn it down, you know, you're beyond the ordinance, well, the ordinance is being interpreted by the officer. And you want people to comply, but in some of these situations, they're not, you know, real anxious to comply, or they want to interpret their own way. So I think that's one of the things we need to consider in trying to give the officers either the tools or better guidance, so they can say, like I said, you know, and I'm not saying we need to do this, but you mentioned that Tuscaloosa has a decibel. You've all been given a copy of the OSHA guidelines. I think Mr. Bennett said these were from OSHA.
Sure, it may or may not be from
Well,
OSHA, but they have that in
It
there.
had something like this, and it goes down, you know, the 20 decibels is rustling leaves, 90 decibels is a squeeze toy, 80 decibels is alarm clock, rock band is 110 on up, you know, jet engine takeoff is 140. You know, so there's some reasonable things that we know, and your point about everyone, their hearing changes over time, and everyone hears different ranges and so forth. So if that's something we can consider, we might want to look at that. And I know that that's been employed, and at least with Shorter Mansion, I think it's a reasonable approach. The question is, can you do it effectively
Right.
and in a cost-effective way?
And I would only add that whatever it was, that you consult with the court system and make sure that
That's what I
it's
was
acceptable.
Exactly. So it's something when we do it, one, it's something that the officers can reasonably implement, and two, that it's going to uphold in the court. Mayor, you have any comments or?
No, just what we've been talking about, you know, you need a guideline for the officers, and a decibel level and also a standard cutoff time. I mean, you're doing that already, sounds like in your permit, but it needs to be written in there that there's a standard cutoff time. So you have a guideline to go by.
And you may, y'all may have to revisit the exemptions, because, I'm 2 miles away from the high school and I can hear the band and the loudspeaker when they have a football game, so.
We don't permit that, do we?
Yes, sir.
We might have to look at how we handle that. There's certain events that
Right.
have become customary that we need to keep in mind.
And industry too, right?
Well, we got industry. I know where I live, I can hear one of my neighbor industries down the road, and I'm real glad when I hear it. Because when they're not going, it means we don't have jobs. And there's certain things, I think they mentioned train whistles in here. I love to hear the train whistle go by. When we didn't have trains going through town, it was a sign that we were losing jobs and activity. But all this needs to have some reasonable aspect to it, and I think this is a good exercise in reviewing it. And I'd like to say I concur with Ms. Potoff's recommendation. We're in the process of bringing on a city planner. We're pretty close off of that, and I think it'd be advantageous for us to look at that, because quite often when you incorporate a change in one city code and ordinance, there's impact with some others. So we need to have someone who has some expertise and look at any kind of overlap, and particularly the other side of it is what impact does it have when the police have to enforce it, make sure it's something that's functional on that way.
Let me just end this by saying my main issue. I want to make sure all of the citizens, I mean everyone in here, is treated the same. Everyone. We want to make everybody happy. Personally, now, I think the police are doing a great job. I really do. I mean, I speak up for it all the time. But we got to do things for one as we do for the other. And every time that we do something that makes one unhappy, we need to find out why. Because we need to make every citizen in Eufaula happy, and we need to make every citizen in Eufaula able to sleep at night, study at night, and if these things need to be cut off at a certain time, I mean, I just think we need to do it. I mean, y'all don't get mad with me out there, please. I love all of you, but right is just right. I like to go to bed. I know Reverend Hunter like to go to bed, and Captain, I know you like to go to bed. So let's do the things that make you fall or all go to bed and sleep in peace. That's it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any other comments or questions that you would like to add regarding this topic? No? Anything else? I'd like to recognize we have our state representative, Barry Fork, here. And thank you for coming. Representative, do you have any communications for us from the state? I know you don't have a general fund budget, but you have some other, did pass an education budget.
Good.
I think it was, I know it was unanimous going on in the committee.
It was.
And it was pretty strong coming off the floor, was it not?
It was.
I want to thank you for your support and interest off of that and working for our city and county. You want to say something?
Yeah.
I'll call on you to say something.
I want to know, we have a lot of tent revivals. They used to have them out in the country. They don't do that no more. They bring them in the city. And you can hear them from one side of town to the other. Folks call me all the time. So when can't you get these folks to turn those and call the folks at City Hall? I don't even know what's in there already.
We'll give you a copy.
What they got any protection? Y'all let them police don't ever bother them, do they?
Is that a permitted event?
They get low.
They're supposed to be permitted. They're supposed to be permitted, and then they have to meet those requirements in the permit.
But they real loud. They real loud.
Well, some folks, when it comes to, shouldn't say this, when it comes to religion, we're kind of hard of hearing, isn't that right, Reverend? So that
But
might be part of it.
it's within the walls where it's not a disturbance.
That's right, you're exactly
That's
right.
the difference.
But we'll get you a copy of that, and I think the mayor appreciates you telling him to call City Hall off of that. So.
Well,
Is there no other business? Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Thank you all.
Ladies, unlock the cash value in your jewelry box. Sell your gold on Dale Road. We buy gold jewelry, bent or broken, at Eufaula Flea Market, 354 Dale Road.
Sell your gold on Dale Road. Sell your gold on Dale Road. Mr. Pond buys gold on Dale Road. Mr. Pond buys gold on Dale Road. Sell your gold on Dale Road. Sell your gold on Dale Road.